And welcome back. Across New York State, individuals are suffering from food insecurity as well as hunger. Feeding Westchester is Westchester County's leading not-for-profit hunger relief organization with a mission to end hunger in Westchester County. Now, the organization sources and distributes good, nutritious food and other resources from every community in Westchester, from Mount Vernon all the way to Mohegan Lake, serving more than 300,000 residents. Joining us now to share a little bit more about the great work that is going on is the Senior Director of Individual Giving at Feeding Westchester, Jeanne Fogel. And Jeanne, good to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Glad. We've been talking across New York City. We've been going to the 5 boroughs, and now we're up in Westchester. And I know that you guys continue to do the great work of making sure that we can do our part in terms of ending hunger. We know how things work from a New York City perspective, but also give us a glimpse into how hunger is really impacting your residents of Westchester County.
Absolutely, and thank you for asking. I think a lot of people don't realize that hunger is here in Westchester. Even before COVID, we estimated about 200,000 people were hungry in Westchester, and that's a variety of different reasons, but a lot of that is due to high cost of living in Westchester. During COVID, we've seen unemployment go from what used to be about 3.5% to 4% to as high as 14% in July, and it seems to have settled around 7%. So that puts a lot of people unemployed and a lot of people in need of food assistance. Pre-COVID, we fed between about 120 and 150,000 people in each month at the different ways they can receive food from us are through our agency partners as well as our own mobile pantries. And during COVID, as you said, Darren, we've seen as many as 300,000 of our neighbors who are hungry need food assistance and receive food through Feeding Westchester.
And when we talk about Feeding Westchester, you're an organization we said is a not-for-profit that's one of the largest in terms of dealing with the issue of hunger. A little bit more about Feeding Westchester for those who may not know.
Sure. So we are the area's food bank. We used to be called the Food Bank for Westchester, but we changed our name about 2 years ago to Feeding Westchester to better convey what we do, because we sure aren't banking food and keeping it on shelves here. We are quickly getting it out to our hungry neighbors in need. And so Feeding Westchester works with about 300 different partners all across Westchester. And that can look like a soup kitchen down the street or a food pantry in a house of worship or a community center. It also looks like relationships with schools and municipalities and school districts. Healthcare partners are one of our newest additions. So all these different relationships and partners help us distribute either through a food pantry or directly from a Feeding Westchester truck right to our hungry neighbors in need. So we stretch, as you said, all the way from Mount Vernon and Yonkers all the way to Mohegan Lake, Yorktown. North Salem was a recent addition, and we really work every single day to help feed our neighbors who are hungry all across this county.
And when we talk about the work that goes on in terms of donors, I know you do some great work in terms of getting connected with donors. What's it been like for you dealing with donors in this season, particularly not just the holiday season, but also as we're talking about COVID-19?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we're really grateful for the support of donors. People have really been incredibly empathetic, compassionate, and generous to their fellow neighbors. And that's how often we ask people to please consider giving and helping your fellow neighbor. Because for many people, they don't realize that hunger might be right in their lovely community. So as I said, people have been incredibly generous. Individuals, foundations, and corporations have been very generous in general, but I think particularly, and not only I think actually, we know from our data that donors have been incredibly generous during COVID and really come forward. People making some of the biggest gifts of their lives during COVID to help support companies and foundations, again, being very supportive. And really, we can't do it without everyone's help. Feeding Westchester, like many food banks, receives some support from the county, the state, and federally, we receive support in terms of food given and provided to us, but we couldn't do the work we do without the help of our neighbors, individuals, foundations, and corporations that help support Feeding Westchester.
Yeah. And when we talk about the holidays, obviously we're preparing a holiday coming up with Thanksgiving. How are you guys preparing to navigate through both Thanksgiving and we can fast forward to the rest of the holidays for the year?
Absolutely. And that's a great topic. And we appreciate that during the holidays, people do think so much about great holiday meals. And we are just thrilled to be providing more than 8,000 turkeys this year. Last year, I believe it was about 6,000. So this year, actually, the number is 8,040 turkeys are being provided across Westchester. And so we're super excited about being able to help people have special holiday meals at this time. Sure, those are going to look a lot different for people. People across the county are going to have different Thanksgivings than they usually do, much smaller. And we are concerned about seniors who will be at home and families who will have much less at this time because of unemployment. So we're really proud of the turkeys, but we also think more broadly about how we're helping to feed people all the time. The night up before Thanksgiving and the days right after Thanksgiving. So we are really proud to be distributing twice as much food this year as we distributed last year. So to give you a sense, and these numbers are a little, but to date this year, we've distributed more than 18 million pounds of food. And that's a crazy big number. I think what helps explain it is last year, the same period of time, we did about a little over 9 million. So we have doubled the amount of food we're distributing. So I think we're doing a lot to help people have food at the holidays, not only on Thanksgiving with that great turkey, but every day up to Thanksgiving and all the days after Thanksgiving, and all the way up through the end of the year. We're going to continue to do all we can to continue to appeal to the community to be supportive and to try to keep distributing at that rate of more than twice what we did last year to keep meeting that increased demand for food assistance.
Those are massive numbers. And how do you navigate, given the fact that you've got this huge, uh, need? You almost double. You talk about giving away 9 million, pounds of food. Now you're up to 18. That's double. How have you been able to maintain?
That's a great question. So a couple of different ways. One of the most fabulous things our operations and warehouse team did is really quickly realize what they could do in speeding up, in a sense, and making more efficient our usual process of working with our food pantry and soup kitchen partners. So typically, Daren, let's say you were running a food pantry in White Plains. You, before COVID, would have been able to go into our system and make some selections of what you'd like, and you would receive that food. Because you knew your agency liked green beans or rice, and you could make those selections, and our team would go in and hand pick and make that order and deliver it to your doorstep. Well, during COVID, we had to move at a much faster rate. We were receiving we were receiving food through the federal programs like Farmers to Families and food in all sorts of different ways. We couldn't necessarily slow down and make that custom order for your particular food pantry, but we could give you twice as much food, and it would be a nice assortment of shelf-stable items. It would probably have the green beans and rice, but it also would have some oatmeal, and it would have all sorts of great shelf-stable, reliable items. And so we could double the amount we were giving to some of our agency partners by moving away from a custom order and pre-packing this great array. Oh, and it also often contains shelf-stable milk, something that's may or may not be in your household, but is really appreciated by our food pantries because of the ease of storing it. So we could provide these great pallets, big stacks of food that are really easily transportable, and we were able to give twice as much to our pantries. So that was a great way. We also added some what we called emergency partners or pop-up partners. So as I mentioned, the town of North Salem we had not had a relationship, and the school district there was really excited to actually have us come with a truckload of food to their school, to the campus of their school, and distribute food. And that's just one partnership. We also did that with the municipality of White Plains, with the school district in Ossining, with the school district in Yonkers over the summer. And these were partners that we had discussions with of, hey, we could work together in this way. And all of a sudden during COVID, people said, we really need to help feed our constituents, our population of White Plains, or the kids being served by a school, and said, how can we work together? and people came together in amazing ways. And in Yonkers, for instance, we were sending, I think it's something like 30,000 pounds of food to the Yonkers School District. They had volunteers from the community come in and pack those bags, go out to 9 different of their schools so
Mhm.
families in those school districts could be served. So when
Wow.
you asked how we're doubling it, we are just working in incredible ways and being flexible and innovative every day to see how we can get food out into the community.
Yeah, the word incredible is what you're using. You guys have been doing incredible work, double the workload, and you guys are still getting it done. Jeanne Fogel, thank you so much for being with us here on the set of Open. Thanks much.
Daren, thank you so much for having me.
All righty. Listen, now, if you want more information about Feeding Westchester, all you got to do is go to their website. What is it? Very simple. feedingwestchester.org. We're hearing a lot about how people are really trying to navigate during this season. The need for food and food security, insecurity is huge. So much to be thankful for during this Thanksgiving holiday. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more show coming up right after this.